Do you remember your first social network? Perhaps it was Odnoklasniki or Vkontakte. Back then, we simply shared photos with friends and wrote status updates about our mood. But today, social platforms have transformed into something more. They have become digital mirrors, reflecting not who we are, but who we want to appear to be. Instagram and TikTok are no longer just communication apps. They are tools for shaping our self. Every day, billions of people create, edit, and publish versions of themselves, receiving instant feedback in the form of likes, comments, and followers. This continuous feedback loop subtly changes our self-perception. We begin to see ourselves through the eyes of a virtual audience, to evaluate ourselves through the prism of digital metrics. But what happens to our self-esteem when life turns into an endless performance? How does constant comparison with filtered images affect our perception of our own appearance and achievements? And can we use social networks without becoming prisoners of their mechanisms? Opening Instagram or TikTok, we automatically engage in the game of creating an ideal image. These platforms not only allow, but actively encourage certain forms of self-presentation. Every element of the interface is designed to make us strive for the best version of ourselves, or more precisely, for the version that will receive more approval. Look at Instagram's functionality: filters that smooth skin, editing tools that allow you to change body proportions, AR masks that transform the face beyond recognition. TikTok goes even further, offering algorithms for automatic appearance enhancement. Even the lighting and shooting angle are suggested by the app, all to create the most attractive content possible. But what drives us in this pursuit of digital perfection? Psychologists identify several key motives. The first is self-affirmation. By publishing edited photos, we seek confirmation of our worth through the reactions of others. The second is social comparison. Seeing idealized images of others, we feel the need to conform to and surpass these standards. The third is escapism. Creating a virtual version of ourselves allows us to temporarily forget about the imperfections of real life. Paradoxically, the more effort we put into constructing our digital image, the wider the gap between our virtual and real selves becomes. This gap creates cognitive dissonance. We begin to perceive our unedited appearance as insufficient, despite the fact that it is precisely what is authentic. Every notification of a new like activates our brain's reward system. This is not an accident, but a carefully crafted mechanism. Social platform developers have created a perfect system of instant feedback that literally programs our brains to constantly return for a new dose of approval. Neurobiological studies show that when we receive a like, dopamine is released in the brain, a neurotransmitter of pleasure and motivation. The same chemical process underlies the formation of many addictions. Harvard University professor Trevor Haynes discovered that the brain's reaction to likes is almost identical to its reaction to other forms of reward, from delicious food to financial bonuses. Especially insidious is the principle of unpredictable reward. We never know for sure how many likes our post will get, or exactly when they will appear. This uncertainty makes the process even more captivating for the brain. Like in slot machines, where precisely the unpredictability of winning keeps players engaged for hours. Over time, a behavioral cycle forms. Posting content, anticipating a reaction, a dopamine release upon receiving approval, and the desire to repeat the experience. With each iteration, this cycle strengthens, forming a stable habit of checking notifications and striving for new records in the number of likes. Gradually, virtual approval becomes a measure of self-worth. People begin to evaluate the significance of their actions, thoughts, and even life events through the prism of the potential reaction of an online audience. Should I go to this concert? Will I get a good shot for Instagram? such questions become part of everyday thinking. Our brain is naturally programmed to compare itself to others. This is an ancient mechanism that helped our ancestors determine their place in the tribal hierarchy and survive. But what happens when this social comparator encounters an endless stream of idealized images on social media? Psychologists call this phenomenon upward social comparison. When we compare ourselves to those who seem more successful, more beautiful, or happier. In real life, such comparisons happen periodically. On social media, they have become constant. Every time we open our Instagram or TikTok feed, we dive into a world where everyone looks flawless, travels to exotic places, and achieves incredible success. A study conducted by the Royal Society for Public Health in the UK showed that Instagram has the most negative impact on self-esteem among all social platforms. 90% of young people admitted that they regularly compare their appearance to the images they see on social media. The phenomenon of downward comparison in the digital environment is particularly interesting. In theory, seeing those who are worse off than us should make us feel better. But on social media, this mechanism works differently. Algorithms rarely show us imperfections, and if they do, it's often in the form of inspiring stories of overcoming, which again triggers the comparison cycle. The paradox is that we compare our behind-the-scenes realities with others' curated highlights. It's like comparing your everyday life to the final scenes of Hollywood movies. It's no wonder that such a comparison leaves a feeling of inadequacy and inferiority. Our brain was not evolutionarily prepared for such intense digital stimulation. It's no surprise that a new phenomenon has emerged: digital anxiety. This is a state where the virtual world causes real psychological consequences. Researchers from Stanford University found a direct correlation. Every additional hour spent on social media increases the risk of developing anxiety disorders by 13%. But how exactly does this manifest in everyday life? The fear of missing out, or FOMO, has become so widespread that it has entered psychological reference books. We constantly check our phones, afraid of missing updates, events, or trends. This state is accompanied by intrusive thoughts. Everyone is having fun without me. I'm falling behind in life. Procrastination is another symptom of digital anxiety. Paradoxically, while striving to be aware of everything, we put off real tasks. Endless scrolling through feeds creates an illusion of productivity, when in reality, we are simply avoiding real tasks. Data on sleep disturbances is particularly alarming. The blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production, but that's not the main problem. Emotional stimulation from social media keeps our brain in a state of constant arousal. We physically go to bed, but our minds continue to replay the content we've seen, analyze comments, and compare ourselves to others. A study by the University of California showed that 70% of users check social media within 30 minutes of waking up, and in the last 30 minutes before going to bed. This digital sandwich literally devours our psychological well-being. Many experience what is known as phantom vibration, the sensation that the phone is vibrating when in reality there are no notifications. This indicates the formation of hypersensitivity of the nervous system to digital stimuli. The ideal life. This is the image we see on social media every day. Flawless breakfasts against a backdrop of seascapes, stylish outfits, impeccable interiors, and eternally happy faces. But what lies behind this culture of perfectionism that has captured the digital space? In reality, we observe not life itself, but carefully curated moments that have passed through dozens of filters and edits. This illusion of perfection creates a dangerous standard that many strive for, without understanding its unattainability. According to a study by the London School of Economics, 86% of users admit to regularly deleting photos that haven't received enough likes. We edit not only images, but also the very story of our lives, erasing everything that seems insufficiently impressive. Psychologist Linda Papadopoulos calls this phenomenon digital perfectionism, a state in which a person experiences constant anxiety due to the discrepancy between their real life and the version they see on social media. Adolescents and young people who are in the process of identity formation are particularly vulnerable. For them, virtual standards become a benchmark that is unattainable in reality. Perfectionism on social media leads to a paradoxical effect. The more we strive for an ideal in the digital space, the more intensely we feel inadequacy in real life. This creates a vicious circle. Self-dissatisfaction leads to an even deeper immersion in the virtual world, where an illusion of perfection can be created. Neuroscientists note that the constant pursuit of unattainable standards exhausts our nervous system. The brain is in a state of chronic stress, trying to meet criteria that are inherently unrealistic. This leads to emotional burnout, increased anxiety, and even depressive states. Research shows that perfectionistic attitudes, amplified by social media, are associated with an increased risk of developing obsessive-compulsive disorders. A person begins to obsessively control every aspect of their life that can be captured and put on public display. Look at your latest Instagram selfie. Do you recognize yourself without filters? For millions of people, the answer is becoming less and less obvious. Appearance modification technologies have evolved from simple retouching to complex algorithms that change facial proportions in real time. Modern filters don't just hide imperfections, they create a new reality. Psychiatrists are noting a growing phenomenon called filter dysmorphia. This is a condition where a person experiences discomfort or even revulsion when looking at their unedited reflection. Patients literally don't recognize themselves without digital enhancements. Plastic surgeons observe a new trend. Clients bring not celebrity photos to consultations, but their own images processed in apps. A London mental health clinic reports a 40% increase in referrals related to distorted self-perception under the influence of social media. Teenagers, whose body image is still developing, are particularly vulnerable. For them, the line between real and filtered appearance is becoming increasingly blurred. The tech giants creating these tools find themselves in an ethical gray area. On the one hand, they cater to user demand. On the other, they establish new beauty standards that are impossible to meet without digital assistance. Some platforms are already introducing labels for edited images, but the effectiveness of such measures remains questionable. Can a clear line be drawn between harmless photo enhancement and dangerous distortion of reality? When does editing become a problem? Researchers suggest a simple test. If you feel uncomfortable showing unedited photos, it might be time to reevaluate your relationship with filters. Who are we in the digital age? This question becomes increasingly complex as our identity splits between the real and virtual worlds. With the advent of social media, the process of identity formation has undergone revolutionary changes. Previously, we defined ourselves through family, work, hobbies, and environment. Now, a digital avatar has been added to this list, a version of ourselves existing in the space of likes and comments. Psychologists call this phenomenon multiple identity. Unlike a clinical personality disorder, this is a normal state for a modern person. We have a professional self for LinkedIn, a creative one for Instagram, and an entertaining one for TikTok. The problem arises when these identities begin to conflict, or when the virtual image deviates so much from the real one that we stop recognizing ourselves in the mirror. A study by Oxford University showed that people who actively manage multiple online personas more often experience what is called identity diffusion, a state where a person loses a holistic sense of self. One participant in the study admitted, "Sometimes I catch myself thinking, who am I really? That successful professional from LinkedIn? Or that fun guy from TikTok? Or maybe I'm none of them at all." This question is particularly acute for teenagers, whose identity is still in the process of formation. For them, social media becomes not just a platform for self-expression, but a laboratory for constructing identity. They try on different masks, experiment with images, and collect feedback. This is a natural process, but in the digital age, it acquires a new dimension. Public approval becomes the criterion for the success of these experiments. Why can a single like change our mood for the entire day? The answer lies deep within our evolutionary history. For thousands of years, human survival depended on group acceptance. Expulsion from the tribe meant almost certain death. Our brains still retain this ancient programming. The desire to be accepted and approved by others is embedded at a neurobiological level. When we receive social approval, the same reward system that activates when basic needs are met is triggered in the brain. MRI studies show that the reaction to likes and compliments involves the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens, structures responsible for feelings of pleasure and habit formation. Social networks brilliantly exploit this fundamental need. They have created a system of instant validation unprecedented in human history. Never before could we receive the approval of hundreds or thousands of people in a matter of minutes, and never before has this approval been so quantitatively measurable. Now we know precisely how many people supported us. Platform developers use the principle of unpredictable reward, the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. We never know how many likes our post will get, and this uncertainty makes us return again and again, checking notifications. Gradually, a psychological addiction forms. We begin to measure our worth by the number of virtual reactions. This process is particularly dangerous for teenagers whose self-esteem is still developing. For them, digital approval becomes the main criterion for self-worth, overshadowing real achievements and relationships. It's interesting that, even while aware of the mechanisms of this addiction, we continue to succumb to it. Neuroscientist Molly Crockett calls this the cognitive dissonance of the digital age, a disconnect between understanding manipulation and the inability to resist it. How to escape the endless scroll trap and transform social media from master to tool? The answer lies in a conscious approach to digital consumption. Digital hygiene is not a complete rejection of technology, but rather the formation of a healthy relationship with it. You can start with a simple step: setting time limits. Most modern smartphones have built-in screen time control functions. Set specific limits for each application and stick to them. When you see that you spend 3 hours a day on Instagram, it becomes a sobering experience. Practicing digital detox is another effective tool. Dedicate 1 day a week, or even a few hours a day, when you completely disconnect from social platforms. At first, you may experience anxiety. This is a normal reaction to the withdrawal of a digital stimulus. But gradually, you will notice how the ability for deep concentration returns and your mood improves. Mindful use begins with a simple question before each app opening. Why am I doing this right now? You'll be surprised how often the answer will be out of habit or out of boredom. Replace automatic consumption with intentional consumption. Decide beforehand how much time you will spend in the app and for what purpose. Studies show that people who practice mindfulness regarding social media are less susceptible to the negative impact of comparison and validation. Their self-esteem remains stable, regardless of virtual approval metrics. Try the digital minimalism technique. Keep only those apps and subscriptions that truly enrich your life. Delete everything that causes negative emotions or provokes meaningless scrolling. Create physical barriers between yourself and your devices. Don't keep your phone in the bedroom. Use an alarm clock instead of a smartphone. Set a rule: no gadgets during meals or when communicating with loved ones. These simple boundaries help regain control over your attention. Remember, technology is created to serve us, not the other way around. A conscious approach transforms social media from a potential source of anxiety into a useful tool for communication, learning, and creativity. In a world where every post and comment shapes our digital reality, critical thinking becomes not just a useful skill, but a survival necessity. Social media algorithms are not designed for our well-being, but for attention retention. They analyze our every action, offering content that will elicit the maximum emotional response, often negative because anger and outrage keep us online longest. How not to become a puppet in this digital theater? The first step is recognizing manipulation. When you scroll through your feed, ask yourself, why am I seeing this particular content? What emotions does it evoke? Who benefits from me feeling this way? Learn to recognize visual manipulations. A perfect body in a sports nutrition ad? Likely the result not only of training, but also professional retouching. An influencer's flawless skin? A combination of filters, lighting, and dozens of takes. To develop critical perception, use the digital skepticism method. Assume that any content on social media has been processed until proven otherwise. Remember the existence of an entire industry creating the illusion of perfection. Building stable self-esteem requires inner work. Start keeping a journal of achievements unrelated to social media. These can be any victories, from cooking a new dish to completing a complex project. Gradually, you will notice how your worth ceases to depend on digital metrics. Practice media detox, periods of complete disconnection from social platforms. The first few days may cause discomfort, but soon you will discover that the world has not collapsed without your online presence. This practice helps restore a healthy perspective and reminds you that real life happens beyond the screen. Create a gadget-free zone in your home and define times when you are fully present in the moment. These islands of digital silence will become a space for restoring your inner connection with yourself. We live in an amazing time, an era when digital technologies and real life are intertwined like never before. Finding a balance between these worlds is a key task for modern man. Social networks give us incredible opportunities. Instant connection with loved ones on the other side of the planet, access to knowledge and communities of like-minded people. But the same force that connects us can also disconnect us if we lose control over our digital consumption. Healthy self-perception in the age of Instagram and TikTok is not about rejecting technology, but about conscious interaction with it. It's understanding that behind every perfect selfie, there are dozens of failed takes. That every spontaneous photo is carefully thought out. That even the most successful bloggers have moments of doubt and insecurity. It's just that these moments remain off-screen. Psychologists suggest a simple practice. Regularly ask yourself, does this account bring me joy, inspiration, useful information? Or do I feel worse after viewing it? Unfollow everything that causes negative emotions. Remember that you create your digital environment yourself. The future of social media depends on us, the users. We are already seeing a trend towards authenticity. People are tired of filtered reality and crave sincerity. Platforms that have noticed this demand are beginning to change algorithms, encouraging more natural content. We can accelerate these changes with our actions, by supporting creators who show real life and ignoring those who exploit our complexes. Ultimately, social networks are just a reflection of our society, with all its advantages and disadvantages. By changing our attitude towards them, we also change digital culture itself. Balancing between the virtual and the real. Remember the main thing. Your value is never measured by likes, followers, or comments. Real life happens here and now, beyond the screen. And the most important moments rarely make it to the Instagram feed.